moje meno je Jan Orlovský z nadácie Otvorenej spoločnosti. Všetkých vás tu srdečne vítam a naozaj ste trpezlivé publikum, lebo 40 minút navyše je naozaj veľa, ale tak ako bolo dnes množstvo podujatí v Bratislave, tak po celom Slovensku a sa veľmi teším, že tento 17. november je naozaj slávnostný. Tých slov o demokracii bolo povedaných dnes a vôbec za celý tento mesiac asi už veľa. Napriek tomu by som si dovolil spomenúť jedno, ktoré sa mi strašne páčilo, že demokracia je vlastne nejaká príležitosť na niečo. Že je to niečo, čo si môžeme sami nejakým spôsobom zariadiť. Žiaľ, dlhé roky sme sa vždy dívali na nejaký zlatý štandard, pozerali sme sa na Spojené štáty, na západnú Európu a hľadali sme, takto by sme niekedy chceli vyzerať. A dnes zisťujeme, že s tým, ako tá demokracia má vyzerať, majú problémy všade. Keď sledujeme to dianie, aj v Španielsku teraz nedávno, pred 3 rokmi mali ich ultranacionalisti 0,2% hlasov vo voľbách, asi 46 000 ľudí im dalo svoj hlas. V posledných voľbách to bol už 3,5 milióna. Čiže celé sa nám to tu nejakým spôsobom pritvrdzuje a práva menšín, práva rôznych skupín sa nám tak ako si strácajú, lebo máme pocit ohrozenia. Mne sa veľmi páčil aj posledná esej Zigmunda Baumana, ktorý hovoril o tom, že v tých našich moderných dejinách toto je prvýkrát, keď sa dívame do budúcnosti namiesto s nádejou, s obavami. A je to práve možno tým, že sú tie veci, ktoré sa od nás, alebo tie fenomény, ktoré sa okolo nás dejú, sú príliš silné. Či už je to klimatické ohrozenie, alebo ohrozenie našej práce, že či budú mať ľudia prácu, keď sa zmení úplne pracovný trh, alebo je to ohrozenie aj demokracie, je to migrácia. Sú to veci, ktoré sú väčšie ako my. A často sa tvárime, ako keby sme chceli ten dážď zastaviť, ale ten dážď vieme, že príde a nevieme, aký ten dáždnik by sme si mali zvoliť. Minulý rok na tomto javisku prehovorila Svetlana Aleksievič. Bol to veľmi silný zážitok spisovateľky, autorky, nositeľky Nobelovej ceny za literatúru o tom, ako sovietské ženy, ruské ženy, bieloruské ženy prežívajú súčasnosť dnes. Našou dnešnou hostkou je hostka z Nigérie, takisto významná spisovateľka, ktorá prichádza z iného kontinentu, z iných kultúrnych prostredí a bude hovoriť o svojich pocitoch z toho, akým spôsobom sa spoločnosť vyvíja. Včera sme tu mali pani prezidentku, množstvo ďalších podujatí hovorí o tom, akých 30 rokov sme tu zažili. Takže bez toho, aby som zdržiaval už hlavných hostí, tak si dovolím pozvať na javisko pani Chimamandu Ngozi Adichie. Ďakujem pekne. Dnešným večerom ju bude sprevádzať holandský spisovateľ Keulemans, ktorý pred chvíľou prehovoril na námestí Slobody. Hovoril práve o tom, ako ťažko je byť slušným. Takže som rád, že ste takýto krásne disciplinovaný a slušný dav, ktorý napriek 40 minútám dokáže takto krásne oceniť našu hlavnú hostku. Takže poprosím Keulemansa. Ale prvne sa ponoríme do vlastne príbehu Chimamandy a jej kníh, tak si dovolím, aby sme si teda navodili tú atmosféru, pozvať ešte na javisko aj herečku Slovenského národného divadla Zuzanu Fialovú, ktorá prečíta 2 úryvky z jej kníh Amerikánka a všetci by sme sa mali stať feministkami. Ďakujem pekne.
Dobrý večer, dámy a páni. Dobrý večer, dámy a páni, pred chvíľou. Najprv chcem povedať, že som veľmi šťastná, že som dostala pozvanie na tento nádherný večer spolu s vami. A pred chvíľou sme sa všetci stretli možno na námestí, kde sme oslavovali 30 rokov slobody a demokracie. A chcem povedať, že ešte po 30 rokoch stále musíme dennodenne bojovať o slobodu niektorých z nás. A tento boj o slobodu a ľudské práva je niečo, čo by mala byť dennodenná práca každého z nás. Sú medzi nami hrdinovia, ktorí sa tomu venujú proste takmer na profesionálnej úrovni a som veľmi pyšná, že mám prostredníctvom jej tvorby, môžem predstaviť takúto ženu, ktorá bojuje dennodenne proti rasizmu, bojuje proti šovinizmu a aj tento dennodenný boj je výzva postaviť sa strachu a čeliť strachu možno pred ľudí, ktorým to nie je pohodlné. A strach je témou tohoto fóra. Dámy a páni, dovolte, aby som vám prečítala prvú ukážku z knihy Amerikánka. Drahí nečierni Američania, ak vám Američan či Američanka čiernej pleti hovorí o svojich skúsenostiach a o tom, aké to je byť čiernym, nehrňte sa prosím do príkladov zo svojho života. Nehovorte, že je to úplne ako keď som ja, áno, trpeli ste. Ale to všetci na celom svete. No vy ste netrpeli iba preto, že ste americký černoch. Keď sa niečo stane, neponáhľate sa s alternatívnymi vysvetleniami. Nehovorte, za to nemôže rasa, za to môže trieda. Za to nemôže rasa, za to môže rod. Za to nemôže rasa, ale škriatok. Pochopte, že americké černošky a černosy vlastne sami nechcú, aby za to mohla rasa. Boli by oveľa radšej, keby sa tie rasistické sračky nediali. Takže, keď povedia, že za niečím je rasa, tak to tak asi skutočne je, nie? Nehovorte, že ja som farboslepý, lebo ak nerozlišujete farby, potrebujete zájsť k doktorovi. A to znamená, že keď v telke ukážu černocha ako podozrivého zo spáchania zločinu vo vašom okolí, uvidíte iba rozmazanú fialkasto našedivelo krémovú figúru. Nehovor, už máme pokrk toho, ako sa stále rozpráva o rase. Alebo jediná rasa na tomto svete je tá ľudská. Aj americkým černochom a černoškám lezie na nervy, ako sa stále hovorí o rase. Ich najväčším želaním je, aby sa o tom už hovoriť nemuselo. Lenže tie sračky sa dejú ďalej. Nezačínajte svoju odpoveď slovami jeden či jedna z mojich najlepších kamarátov či kamarátok je černoch, černoška, lebo je to úplne jedno a každému je to úplne ukradnuté. A okrem toho ani najlepšia kamarátka či kamarát, černoška či černoch vám nezabráni byť rasistickým hovadom. A pravdepodobne to aj tak nie je pravda. Teda to, čo sa týka toho výrazu najlepší kamarát, hej? Nehovorte, že váš starý otec je Mexičan, takže nemôžete byť rasista. Nevyťahujte ani utrpenie vašich írskych prarodičov. Je jasné, že sa im od amerického establishmentu dostalo kopy sračiek, ako Talianom alebo východoeurópánkam. Lenže existovala istá hierarchia. Biele etnika pred 100 rokmi neznášali to, že ich neznášajú, no dalo sa to zniesť, pretože na rebríčku pod nimi boli ešte černosy. Nehovorte, že v čase, keď v Amerike fungovalo otroctvo, váš starý otec bol nevoľníkom v Rusku, lebo dôležité je, že teraz ste Američania, čo znamená, že musíte prijať všetko, čo s tým súvisí. Devízy, aj dlhy, aj segregačné zákony. Segregačné zákony sú brutálny dlh, to vám poviem. Nehovorte, že to je ako antiseminizmus. Nie je. Nie je. Nenávisť voči Židom mala v sebe ešte akú takú závisť, že Židia sú takí fiškusy, všetko riadia tí Židia jedni. A treba priznať, že tú závisť sprevádzala istá, akokoľvek nevraživá, ale stále úcta. Nenávisť voči americkým černochom v sebe nemá žiadnu závisť. Tí černosi sú takí leniví, tí černosi sú takí neinteligentní. A nehovorte, ale čo, veď rasizmus sa skončil, otroctvo je minulosť. Rozprávame sa tu o problémoch zo 60. rokoch 20. nie 19. storočia. Ak stretnete postaršieho amerického černocha z Alabamy, pravdepodobne sa ešte bude pamätať, ako musel zísť z chodníka, lebo okolo išiel nejaký beloch. Nedávno som si na eBay kúpila vintage šaty zo 60. rokov. Sú v perfektnom stave, často ich nosím. Keď ich nosila pôvodná majiteľka, čierni Američania nemohli hlasovať, lebo boli čierni. A možno, že ich pôvodná majiteľka bola jednou zo žien z tých známych sépiových fotiek, ktoré v tlupách stáli pred školami a na černošské deti kričali opica, pretože nechceli, aby chodili do školy s ich bielými deťmi. A kde sú tie ženy teraz? Majú pokojný spánok. Spomenú si občas na to, ako kričali opica? A napokon neháčte tón štýlu nalejme si čistého vína a nehovorte, Ale černosi sú tiež rasisti. Je úplne jasné, že predsudky máme všetci. Ja sama nedokážem zniesť niektorých mojich pokrvných príbuzných, tých chamtivých, sebeckých ľudí, ale rasizmus sa týka moci istej skupiny a v Amerike majú moc práve bieli. Ako? No, s bielými nezaobchádzajú v afroamerických komunitách vyššej strednej triedy ako s handrami. Bielým v bankách nezamietajú pôžičky a hypotéky len preto, že sú bieli. A černošské poroty nedávajú za ten istý zločin belochom prísnejšie tresty ako černochom. A černošskí policajti ti nezastavujú v autách belochov len preto, že sú bieli. A černošské firmy si nevyberajú, koho zamestnajú len podľa toho, že nejaké meno znie beložsky. A černošské učiteľky nehovoria bielým deťom, že nie sú dostatočne šikovné na to, aby sa z nich stali lekári či lekárky. A černošskí politici sa nesnažia robiť rôzne triky, aby znížili hlasovaciu silu bielých prostredníctvom posúvania hraníc volebných obvodov. A reklamné agentúry nehovoria, že nemôžu využívať biele modelky, lebo mainstream ich nepovažuje za niečo, k čomu ľudia inklinujú. Takže po vymenovaní všetkého, čo robiť nemáte, je tu otázka, čo teda robiť máme? Čo teda robiť máte? To presne neviem. Možno by ste mohli skúsiť počúvať, vypočuť si, čo vám vravia. A pamätajte, že nejde o vás. Americkí černosi vám netvrdia, že na vine ste vy. Iba vám hovoria, ako to naozaj je. Ak nerozumiete, pýtajte sa. Ak sa pri kladení otázok cítite nesvoji, povedzte, že sa pri kladení otázok cítite nesvoji. A napriek tomu sa ďalej pýtajte. To, či sa človek pýta s dobrým úmyslom, sa dá ľahko vycítiť. A potom znovu počúvajte. Ľudia občas chcú len to, aby ich vypočuli. Týmto pripíjam na možné priateľstvá, kontakty a porozumenia. Bravo! I love you. Je proste skvelá, je proste úžasná. A dovolte, z môjho osobného pohľadu som si dovolila poprosiť organizátorov tohto zájazdu proti strachu a tohto zájazdu za toleranciu a pochopenie, aby som mohla prečítať kratočký úryvok z feministickej knižky. Všetci by sme mali byť feministami, pretože to sa ma naozaj osobne týka. Sama sa potýkam so šovinizmom aj v mojej práci. Myslím, že každá jedna žena by o tom mohla rozprávať, tak len taký krátky náhľad aj do tohto boja za ženské práva. Lebo je to hrozne milé, ako to napísala. Dámy a páni, z knihy Všetci by sme mali byť feministkami. Takže, rozhodla som sa, že sa viac za svoju feminitu ospravedlňovať nebudem. Chcem, aby ma rešpektovali so všetkou mojou ženskosťou, lebo si to zaslúžim. Obľúbujem politiku a históriu a vyžívam sa v kvalitných myšlienkových sporoch. A som dievčenská a teší ma to. Mám rada vysoké podpätky a rada skúšam rôzne rúže. Lichôtky, či už od mužov alebo žien, sú mi veľmi príjemné, aj keď musím úprimne povedať, že uprednostňujem lichôtky od štýlových žien. Často však nosím oblečenie, ktoré sa mužom aj nepáči, alebo mu nerozumejú. Nosím ho preto, lebo sa mi páči, pretože sa v ňom cítim dobre. Mužské zízanie, ktoré by ovplyvňovalo moje životné rozhodnutia, je skôr vedľajší jav. Rozhovor o rode nebýva ľahký. Ľudia sa pri ňom cítia nesvoji a niekedy reagujú zbytočne podráždene. Muži či ženy. Obe skupiny pri takomto rozhovore kladú buď odpor, alebo veľmi rýchlo všetky problémy spojené s rodom zavrhnú. Myšlienky týkajúce sa zmeny statusu quo sú vždy veľmi nepríjemné. Niektorí ľudia sa pýtajú, a prečo hneď feministka? Prečo proste nestačí povedať, že vám ide o ľudské práva či niečo také? No pretože by to bolo neúprimné. Isté, feminizmus vo všeobecnosti spadá pod ľudské práva, to všetci vieme, ale zvoliť si neurčitý výraz ľudské práva v podstate znamená poprieť špecifický a konkrétny problém, ktorý je bezprostredne spojený s rodom. Tak to by sme vlastne predstierali, že ženy neboli po celé stáročia vylúčené zo spoločenského diania. Takto by sme istým spôsobom popierali, že problém rodu sa týka najmä žien. Že problém nezasahuje ľudské bytosti vo všeobecnosti, ale špecificky ľudské bytosti ženského pohlavia. Po celé stáročia svet rozdieloval ľudský rod na dve skupiny a neskôr sa pri jednej z nich prikročilo k vylúčeniu a útlaku. Je korektné a je spravodlivé, že sa to pri riešení problému prizná. Niektorí muži sa cítia feminizmom ohrození. Myslím si, že to vychádza z neistoty, ktorá sa spúšťa tým, akú chlapci dostávajú výchovu a tým, ako im klesá sebaúcta, keď ako muži prirodzene nekontrolujú situáciu. Ďalší muži reagujú slovami: fajn, to je síce zaujímavé, ale ja takto nerozmýšľam. Nepremýšľam o otázke rodu. No asi nie. A to je práve súčasť toho problému, že mnohí muži aktívne nerozmýšľajú o rode, že si ho vôbec nevšímajú, že mnohí priateľ, tak ako môj priateľ Luis, hovoria, že v minulosti to možno bolo zlé, ale dnes je všetko v poriadku. A že mnohí muži nerobia nič preto, aby sa to zmenilo. Ak ako muž vojdete do reštaurácie a čašník pozdraví len vás, napadne vám spýtať sa ho, prečo ste nepozdravili moju partnerku? Muži musia prehovoriť vo všetkých týchto zdánlivo malicherných situáciách. Keďže otázky rodu môžu byť nepríjemné, rozhovor o nich sa dá ukončiť ľahko. Niektorí ľudia vyrukujú s evolučnou biológiou a opicami, ako sa opičie samice kláňajú pred opičími samcami a podobne. Lenže ide o to, že my nie sme opice. Opice žijú na stromoch a jedia dážďovky, my nie. Iní zase povedia: no a čo chudobní muži, tí to tiež majú ťažké? Áno, to je pravda. Ale tento rozhovor nie je o nich. Hej. Rod a trieda sú celkom odlišné kategórie. Chudobní muži sú totiž ešte stále zvýhodnení ako muži, hoci nemajú privilégium bohatstva. Rôzne systémy útlaku a to, ako sa môžu navzájom míňať, som pochopila v rozhovoroch s viacerými černošskými mužmi. Raz sme s jedným prebrali rod, vraví mi: prečo sa to musí týkať teba ako ženy? Prečo nie len ako ľudskej bytosti? Takýto typ otázky istým spôsobom umlčiava osobné špecifické skúsenosti. Áno, som človek. Ale niektoré veci sa mi v živote dejú len preto, že som žena. Ďakujem. Thank you very much.
To bolo naozaj veľmi krásne čítanie Zuzany Fialovej. Veľmi pekne ďakujem, Zuzka. To bolo naozaj veľmi silný zážitok pre mňa aj. A toto je druhýkrát, čo na tomto pódiu odovzdávame cenu Stredoeurópanka. A práve pani Ngozi Adichie ju dnes dostane, ale predtým, ako ju odovzdáme, tak poprosím Máriu Modrovich, spisovateľku, ktorá prenesie svoje Laudatio na počesť našej hostky. Ďakujem pekne.
Dobrý večer. Hello and welcome. We're very glad to have you here. Začnem citátom. 8. návrh. Nauč ju odmietať milotu. Jej úlohou nie je byť milá, jej úlohou je byť sama sebou, úprimným človekom, uvedomujúcim si rovnocennú ľudskosť ostatných. Existuje viac dôvodov, pre ktoré je Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie v centre svetového literárneho výslnia. Napríklad reprezentuje generáciu autoriek a autorov, ktorým sa podarilo zviditeľniť svoju krajinu, vymedziť súčasnú Nigériu spomedzi Afriky a všetkého afrického a ukotviť ju na svojom mieste. Už to samo o sebe by možno stačilo. Predstavme si, že by sme vďaka slovenským knihám nemuseli vysvetľovať, že Ljubljana je inde a rýchlo dodávať a Slovensko začína len pár kilometrov za Viedňou. Lenže povedať, že Adichie nám sprostredkúva určitú, akokoľvek bohatú nigerijskú skúsenosť je neúplné. Autorka a jej postavy žijú z časti v Amerike vo vysnenom cieli západnej civilizácie a živo komentujú a kritizujú aj americký spôsob života. Dualita, respektíve mnohorakosť jej písania a uvažovania sa pretavila do spôsobu, akým otvára témy, ktoré sú napriek jej z nášho pohľadu exotickému pôvodu univerzálne dôležité. Od väčšiny západných autorov sa líši nebojacnou priamosťou. Jej úprimnosť je vakcínou proti mäkkým, uhybavým vysvetleniam a nuansám, za ktoré schovávame naše stuhnuté postoje, strach hovoriť na rovinu. Keď čítame Adichie, dostávame sa do konfrontácie nielen s inou rasou, ale najmä s vlastným rasizmom. Núti nás odložiť našu netrpezlivosť aj našu blahosklonnosť a pozrieť sa na svet z iných uhlov, než máme zažité. A znova, darí sa je to nie vďaka sofistikovaným metaforám, ale vďaka odzbrojujúcej sebaistej priamočiarosti. Programoho sa vyhýba akademickej hantírke, vystupuje z bubliny privilegovaných. S rovnakou samozrejmosťou a s akou opíše pocity nigerijského muža bez dokladov, čítajúceho si v Londýne správy o imigrantskej kríze, s nami rozoberá ženské vlasy či make-up, v intelektuálnych kruhoch banalizované ako nepodstatné. Obdivujem na nej, že neváha priznať, ako ju niektoré spoločenské nastavenia hnevajú. A páči sa mi, že svoj hnev bez okoľkov odstupňuje. Sexizmus ju poburuje viac ako rasizmus, pretože, ako hovorí vo svojom feministickom manifeste o 15 návrhoch, ľudia okolo mňa často priznávajú, že rasizmus je problematický, ale sexizmus tak nevnímajú. Píše: Učíme dievčatá, aby boli milé, aby boli príjemné, aby neboli samé sebou. Chlapcov to neučíme. Je to nebezpečné. Dievčatá sa snažia byť milé k ľuďom, čo im ubližujú. Myslia na pocity svojich predátorov. Toto sú katastrofálne dôsledky výchovy k milote. Hĺbkou a vážnosťou svojich zamyslení sa zaraďuje k najrelevantnejším autorkám a autorom dneška. Na rozdiel od mnohých, ktorí často akoby schválne zotrvávali v temných zákutiach ľudskej existencie, či už preto, lebo sú autentickí cynici, alebo preto, lebo sa obávajú, že akýkoľvek náznak riešenia či nádeje by bol interpretovaný ako málo umelecký, Adichie nám ukazuje cestu von. Ako by nikdy neprestala veriť v to, čo nazývame spoločenská zmluva. Táto viera, pretrvávajúca v jej dielach napriek skutočnosti, že svetské nespravodlivosti sa menia len pomaly a pozvoľna, je nesmierne inteligentná. Je plná zodpovednosti za vlastnú prácu, za vlastnú existenciu. A hovorí nám, že krčenie plecami v žiadnom prípade nestačí, že naše výhovorky neberie. Očakáva, že aj my zodpovedne dodržíme všetky záväzky, ktoré pre nás zo zmluvy vyplývajú. Ďakujem.
Ďakujem veľmi pekne Márii Modrovich a teraz mi dovolte pozvať na pódium Juraja Tedlu, zástupcu Stredoeurópskej nadácie, ktorý vám povie viacej o cene. Ďakujem pekne.
Dobrý večer. O cene až tak veľa nepoviem, tá povie za seba, keď ju uvidíte, ale chcem povedať len pár viet. Dnes je mimoriadny deň a v tejto chvíli o niečo mimoriadnejší ešte, pretože máme možnosť vzdať úctu vzácnej hostke. Za Stredoeurópsku nadáciu chcem povedať, že pre nás je naozaj veľkou cťou, že odovzdávame cenu Čestná Stredoeurópanka spisovateľke, ktorá nás inšpiruje svojou nebojacnosťou, s tým, ako odvážne pomenúva veci, pomenúva rozmanitosť a nejednoznačnosť nášho sveta, ako slobodne sa na tento svet pozerá. Sloboda je to niečo, čo sa minimálne 30 rokov snažíme ponovom zadefinovať. Hľadáme skutočný význam toho slova v každodennom živote, v celospoločenskom, ale napríklad aj v rodinnom. A pani Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie nám dáva odvahu, povzbudzuje nás, aby sme sa oslobodili od akéhosi zaužívaných zvyklostí, od toho, čo sa dá nazvať nejaká jedna ustálená, jediná pravda. Je to pre nás cenný dar a preto chcem v mene našej nadácie, v mene mnohých ďalších, verím, a rovnako za mňa osobne pani Adichie poďakovať.
Well, you told me I could call you Chimamanda on stage.
Yes.
I will do so. Chimamanda, how is it to be here in Bratislava and to be welcomed as an honorary Central European?
When do I get the passport? I just want to say how meaningful and lovely it is for me to be here, and particularly to be here today, on a day that means so much to you. The wonderfully passionate reading of my work felt like a gift. And this, I think really for me, it's just this feeling of being a part of, for many years I've read about this part of the world, I think as most people have. And I've always been deeply admiring of the grit and the courage that it takes to stand up and rise up against a system that is inhumane.
And it was unimaginable that it would fall.
Yes. But I think for me, that it's an example, it's a testament to what collective human will can achieve. And so what this means for me is simply that I kind of now can have a tiny, tiny, tiny slice of this courageous grit. But of course, I have a Nigerian passport. And traveling to any part of Europe with a Nigerian passport is an exercise in disaster.
It's getting more complicated, I think, huh?
So I didn't come directly to. So when I left, I guess my point is that had my first entry into Europe been here, then I would actually be in a position to say something about Slovakia.
Sure.
But when I arrived in Switzerland, which was my first point of entry on this trip, and every time I travel and every time I get to Europe, I'm immediately tense because I'm expecting to be questioned, to be asked to show my return ticket. I'm expecting the assumption that I'm lying when I say that I'm a writer. But what happened in Zurich, and I'm constantly watching to see what's happening with the people ahead of me in line. And for the first time in a long time, the immigration officer treated me in exactly the same way as he treated the two white people ahead of me. And I left that experience feeling this kind of ridiculous sense of gratitude. And then later I felt a sadness that I should feel gratitude for having been treated with just basic human dignity. And it made me think about how much all everyone wants is just that basic, normal human dignity. I don't know, it was sort of a striking moment for me because I felt so grateful. I wanted to hug him. Like, thank you for not being rude.
It's so ambivalent, huh? Yeah. But as we just heard, as this whole city right now these days is full of memories of the unimaginable that happened 30 years ago, and about how this whole society has been trying to figure out what freedom actually means. And I hear many people here, I'm not from here, but I hear many people here saying we still haven't figured it out. It is still such, stories like yours are still here of people wanting, trying, fighting to achieve what should be the most normal thing in the world. How do you address people? You don't know these people, but how do you address people to continue defining what freedom means?
One of the things I'm curious about is what happened here? Why is there a reasonable woman in power when you're surrounded by countries that have people who are not terribly reasonable in power? I find that really admirable. This is actually why I came to this country, because I'm very curious and very interested. But really, I think it's important for people in Central Europe to know that what has happened in their history has been inspirational to people in other parts of the world, and that I don't think freedom is necessarily something that one captures and then holds in one's hands. I think it's a constant journey. I think this idea of figuring it out is what it should be. Mm-hmm. And while we celebrate 30 years, it's actually not that long. It really isn't. And I think that as human beings, we live with our histories. We're constantly negotiating with our histories. And it seems to me that the fact that one hasn't, that circumstances are not perfect, for me is never reason for despair. Never. Because it's also important to look back and think, look what we've achieved, look where we are. I mean, just reading about the Velvet Revolution, I remember thinking, really? I mean, really, it happened? Mm-hmm. You know, and there's something about it that is, I find, just gloriously inspiring. Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that. I know that we're living in times that are difficult. I think there are parts of this continent that are terrifying to me reading about them because they really remind me of reading about Europe in the 1930s. But maybe it's all the more reason to sort of put despair aside and keep forging forward. I think what's happening in the US, for example, is that the response to a certain kind of right-wing populism introduced by the American president is that many women have started organizing. Women who would never have thought about running for office are running for office. And so I think there is something to be said. Obviously, one would want the inspiration for civic participation not to be right-wing populism, right? I mean, it would be nice if women just ran for office without having to rise up against the demagogue. But it seems to me that in this time in Europe, there are many things that are sad, and but also there's a sense in which there are opportunities.
One of the opportunities, one of the special things here was indeed, as you mentioned, the new president. She was elected last year. President Zuzana Čaputová sat in this same chair here last night, and she spoke with dignity and seriously, and in very diplomatic terms, because she's president. She criticized the behavior of political parties towards the elections that are going to happen in 3 months. So yes, she's a shining example. There is this other side, of course, to the story. This might be a stretch. I'm trying to connect the themes that you write about with the situation that we find here. This might be a stretch. If it's nonsense, skip it. Because people describe to me this country, Slovakia, as a place of many beauties. The nature, the cities, the history, the people, the president. But also as a country that has gone through totalitarian rule. It's a country with huge income inequality. There's great differences between cities and countryside. There's a strong religious grip on communities. Traditional patriarchy rules. There is corruption throughout society. So, just saying, freedom's not perfect yet.
It sounds like you described my country, Nigeria.
Well, I didn't want to...
It's true.
When I hear this and I'm reading your work and the way you describe Nigeria, there's obvious differences, but some similarities. And then, you're growing up in a society like that with some of these characteristics. You could have chosen to become a politician or a lawyer or an investigative journalist, but you decided to become a storyteller, a novelist. Why?
Because I think it's what I was born to do. In some ways, I don't think I chose writing. Writing chose me. When I was 4 years old, I knew I think some people know and some people sort of figure it out later. I was one of those people who just knew that this is what I wanted to do. But I also, because I grew up in a world that was very practical, where if you said you wanted to be a writer, people looked at you very funny, like, writer, how are you going to pay your bills? And so my plan had been that I would go along with all the expectations placed on me, which was to become a doctor. In Nigeria, if you do well in school, they tell you have to be a doctor. And so I had sort of planned to be a doctor and then write at night. But then it sort of, and I guess it ended up working out that I didn't end up becoming a doctor. But
writing chose you, but then you chose to write against these evils that are plaguing society.
Do you know, when I'm writing, it's not, so that for me there are two, when I'm writing fiction, which is my first love, and which is the thing that in many ways brings meaning to my life, I'm not really thinking about, I'm not sort of thinking I shall now write against the evils of society. I'm thinking I want to tell stories of people. Yeah. And the reality of the world that I write about, and I think really, the reality of human beings in the world is that we don't exist in a vacuum. We're all products of our political and social worlds. And even our emotional worlds, I think, are shaped by what's outside of us. You know, I'm interested in, for example, if you're living in a totalitarian society, what does it do to the way that you love? What does it do to love? If you're living in a place where the default is distrust, you know, in a low-trust society, how does it shape your interactions with other human beings? And I'm interested in that sort of thing. And of course, having grown up in a military dictatorship in Nigeria, Nigeria's last military dictator died in 1998, and that's about when I left Nigeria. There's a sense in which you become, you're shaped by it. And when I was young, I remember my father was a professor. I grew up on a university campus. And I remember when my parents' friends would come to visit, the doors would be closed. We lived in a big house, but they would whisper because they were talking about political things. And as a child, that stays with you. And the part of me that's very interested in storytelling, for me, that is what it means to live in a system that is oppressive, that you cannot speak in your normal tone of voice, even when it makes no sense to whisper, you whisper, right? And I think as a storyteller, that I was drawn by things like that.
Yeah. And I think everything you're describing now will resonate with people here who remember, who experienced totalitarianism, communism. People whispering in their own living rooms. But then this other thing, beautiful question or complicated question, how do you love when you live under totalitarianism? Mária Modrovich just now in her Laudatio also said what sets you apart from many of the readers that she writes, writers that she reads, is that they are great in writing about doom and gloom and everything that is wrong in this world. But you stand out because you show us a way forward. And I would add, I know very few writers who write so beautifully about love as you do. But incredible, really, I have to say that. Half of a Yellow Sun, Amerikánka, the love stories, you will know if you've read them. You start glowing. You start glowing when you read those. And now in this context, I suddenly get the feeling it's maybe too big to say writing about love is an act of resistance in itself, but in a way it might be.
It is. Oh, it is. It absolutely is. And it might, you know, this is the thing about, I'm also increasingly wary of that idea that if one occupies an intellectual space, one has to hide behind irony and cynicism about the more emotional parts of our lives, you know. So I know that there are intellectuals who will be very, very uncomfortable about talking about this because it's a bit too earnest. So we have to sink back into irony and cynicism, and I don't have time for that. I think that writing about love Because in the end, what does it mean to be human? I think one thing that I believe runs through all of us as humans is that we want to be valued. We want to be valued. And I think not only do we want to receive value, we want to give a sense of value. In other words, we want to love and be loved. And especially in a society, in a political system that is trying to take away from you your very humanity. If you're living in a place that's telling you cannot think, telling you cannot say certain things, in some ways then when you choose to... And the other thing, of course, is that love happens anyway. I remember when I was researching the Nigeria-Biafra War of the 1960s for my novel, Half of a Yellow Sun. And, I was young, and for some reason I thought that, and I was in many ways kind of in awe of the political backdrop to the war, how, this region of Nigeria, my region, wanted to secede, and people just rose up and were so fiercely independent. And then my parents were talking about it, and they said, and we went for this wedding during the war. And I thought, wait, what? Right? Because in my mind, I'd forgotten people were getting married, people were falling in love while war raged. In other words, people were holding on to their humanity. Yeah. And I find I think it's one of the things that really interests me as a storyteller, how human beings continue to remain human,
Read those novels. I mean, read the manifesto, read We Should All Be Feminists, but read the novels. I know they're translated into Slovak, fortunately, so read them and glow when you read about love. But to return to this struggle for liberty, for freedom. Right here, this country, we mentioned the president. Just an hour before you arrived, I was at a huge rally just down the road that campaigns for a decent Slovakia, against corruption, against injustice, against inequality. That too was run by young women. So this is a society where women at certain moments can succeed in fighting patriarchy. What do you say to women? What do you say to women to encourage them that there is something beyond irony and cynicism?
I think if they're organizing these things, they kind of already know. But I'm just going to say that you have to remember that people are applauding you, people like me. I find it, I think, because I think of myself as, like I said earlier, a storyteller. I'm a writer, I'm a novelist. This kind of new identity of activism is one I kind of feel ambivalent about, because I'm not even sure I'm very good at it. I think real activists are really serious people, right? And it's hard for me to take myself that seriously. But one of the I think drawbacks of becoming this public, I guess, symbol for feminism in particular is that it can be lonely. It can feel incredibly lonely, because in my particular experience, with the people that I know and love, who are the people that you, in general, want to you want them to believe what you believe. But I find that even the people I know and love, my friends, they often want me to defend feminism. They want me to prove that sexism exists. And things that seem to me very obvious, that something has happened to this person because this person is a woman. And invariably somebody's saying to me, well, are you sure, really? As though somehow women like sexism, so they just invent it, But, so to hear stories like this, so I guess my point is, if there is a message here for women in this country, it's to say to them, knowing that you're there is wonderful for me and people like me. And I hope that for you, it's also wonderful to know that people like me are there, because the most important thing is to know that you're not alone, that the people who share your values, the people who believe as you do, that men and women are equal, that women are full human beings, that we have to allow women to be full human beings, to make decisions about their bodies and their lives, because they're full human beings. And so, I'm just, keep doing.
Yeah. You're now an honorary Central European, so you can walk the streets and spread the message. But then to take it one step further, you've also written about this. A lot of people in the world, all over the world, no matter what society, have a problem with women in power. Women are nice, good for whatever, but as soon as they realize their true ambitions and take that power, then what happens?
Then they get a lot of, then there's censure, then they are quote unquote punished. In Nigeria, women are in positions of power. There are women who head banks, who head corporations, we don't have a governor who's a woman, but we have ministers who are women. But what's interesting about observing Nigerian women in power is that every time they're asked about their work publicly, they are always expected to say that while they think their work is very important, the most important job is to their husband or to their children. So you'll often have women say, I love that I have this position, but the most important thing for me is to go home and cook for my husband. And I find this to be a performance, but it's a performance that is almost necessary for their survival, because what it means is that a woman who is powerful has to make herself non-threatening. And the way to do that is to reduce herself to domesticity. Because automatically when a woman is powerful, she threatens. And it's a terrible thing, because I think what it proves is that our world is so misogynistic that we cannot deal with the idea of a woman in power. And by the way, this is something that women get from men and women. So there are many women, we live in a misogynistic world. I think of it as misogyny is in the air and we're all breathing it in. And so women too attack women in power, judge them much more harshly. I was reading a study in the US about women seeking power, and this happened to Hillary Clinton. It's happening now to Elizabeth Warren, where when they start to rise in the polling, and when women are asked about them, the judgment is so harsh. And it's also interesting how the language of like is used often for women. I mean, America has a president that I would describe as just almost impossible to like, but he's not spoken of in those terms. No. But it's incredible how often one hears, I don't like Hillary Clinton, I don't like Elizabeth Warren. So it becomes this sort of referendum on likability when it shouldn't be. This is not a contest for likability. But also, I think it proves our reaction to women in power across the world proves why we need feminism.
Yeah.
And also shows us in a very blatant way the double standards that exist in the world. When I was growing up, there was a professor on campus who was a woman, and people often said, I don't like her. And they would say she's very aggressive and arrogant. And there was a man who behaved exactly like her. And people said he's so authoritative and strong. And so as a child, I could see that the world judges men and women differently for the same behavior. Right? So it makes you realize that the judgment is not for the behavior. No. It's really about not liking women.
And you've written about this in all different ways. I want to, just in between, I want to grab this opportunity because it's a once in a lifetime. Next president of the United States, Elizabeth Warren, Hillary Clinton, or Michelle Obama?
I can tell you that Michelle Obama is not running.
Okay, but if they were all running?
No, that's not fair.
Okay. Just curious. You've written about them, and they are,
I think they're all, obviously there are three women, all of whom I admire. Michelle Obama I love.
Okay. That's an answer. You yourself, I don't know if you would describe yourself as a woman with power, but you have power. How do you handle that? Including the response, the negative response to that.
Yes, a certain kind of power. Yes, well, actually, yes. I mean, yes, I would concede that. I handle it in different ways. There are times I don't want to get out of bed. I just want to stay in bed and eat chocolates. I cannot believe how terrible people are. And then there are times when, really, in general, I have to keep reminding myself that there's a kind of criticism that you realize is really not about what you're saying. It's about the fact that you're a woman who dares to have an opinion. And it's also interesting to me to see that how often, especially in Nigeria, the response to things I say about feminism is shut up. So that there's this impulse to silence women. So you're not engaging, because I quite like a good argument. I want you to give me the opportunity to try and persuade you. But this refusal even to engage with the idea and just to say shut up, I constantly have to remind myself that it's in some ways these people are proving your point. But also it's a way of reminding myself that I have to keep going forward. And it's actually exactly when I'm told to shut up that I don't shut up.
And yeah. And it informs your writing, because, as I said earlier, your writing about love is incredibly beautiful, but your writing from a place of anger is also powered, is electrifying. It both works. Before we go to questions from the audience, I think this might be a moment talking about women who contributed. This little book has just been published. It is on sale at the entrance. The English title is Talking Back to 1989. It is about the role of women in the revolution, in the Velvet Revolution, a role that very often went unrecognized. So this book by Zuzana Majarova is a very important moment, I think, to reinstall the power and the influence and the value of the women who contribute to the Velvet Revolution. It's on sale after, at the end.
Is it in English?
No, it's not in English yet. But the summary is in English. I read the summary, it makes me very curious. So, if we could have some light on the audience, I don't know if that's possible. And if there is somebody walking around with a microphone, I'm super curious to hear some questions from the audience. Because I know Bratislava was excited that Chimamanda is coming. Okay, do I see 20 hands in the air? Not yet. Bit of light. Where's the microphone, by the way? Is it over there? Really hard to see. Hand over there, yeah? Ah, there's a hand over here. Okay, where's the mic? Yeah, or I can go. So here we are.
No dobre, ďakujem za mikrofón. Ja by som sa chcel opýtať, že čo si pani predstavuje pod pojmom demokracia. Že čo sa všetko môže robiť, tak ako sa napríklad, neviem, či ona vie o tom, že dneska si ľudia robia, čo chcú. Vraždia, krádnu, robia neporiadok, všetko devastujú. Že či to aj v Amerike akceptujú takéto nejaké veci.
I didn't get that. Did you get it? Our translators here are great, so could you translate the question of the gentleman?
What do you understand under democracy? What is democracy for you today when we see people who do anything, murder, kill, destroy nature? What is, in your view, then democracy?
Essential question.
I mean, are people killing and destroying nature because of democracy? I would argue not. I think killing and destroying nature has happened under all kinds of political systems and structures. For me, democracy is not perfect, but it's the best that we have. And it means a system of government that recognizes the will of the people. For me, the concern today is that because we now live in a world where it's very easy to manipulate information, I think that our democracy is in peril. I think the idea that you have social media platforms that can be used to really manipulate people, manipulate information, spread false information. And when you have people voting under false pretenses, then it's no longer democracy. So if there's anything that troubles me today about democracies across the world, it is that.
Okay. We have another question here.
Hi, thank you for being with us. It's wonderful. My question is not out of curiosity. It is a bit intentional. And I do believe that you will understand why I'm asking. Is there any kind of important thing to say about the difference between woman and femininity? What is it, woman? And what is it, femininity? Does it belong to each other necessarily and only, or how it works? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
No, I don't. That's an interesting question. No, so to the question, does femininity belong only to women? No, I don't think it does. I think, I think men who choose to sort of perform femininity, that's perfectly fine and acceptable. No. I don't think so at all. What I do think is that we live in a world that doesn't give the same value to things that we traditionally consider feminine. The world doesn't give the same value to those things as it does to the things that we consider traditionally masculine. And I think in general it's because we've linked femininity to women and masculinity to men. And it's also, I think, why, for example, when I went to the US from Nigeria for the first time and wanted to get my short stories published, wanted to be part of sort of the literary world, I very quickly learned that if you're a woman and you wanted to be taken seriously as an intellectual in America, you could not also be seen as somebody who was interested in appearance. You could not like fashion. And I grew up in Nigeria in a world where you were supposed to care about your appearance. And so I started pretending not to care about femininity and started wearing clothes that were sort of, I would also say even maybe macho, because for me, I felt this is the only way they will take me seriously, and I want to be taken seriously. And so, for me, the reason that I talk about femininity and feminism, and I say that femininity and feminism are not mutually exclusive, is because for so long, traditional feminism in the West has said to women that if you want to be taken seriously, you have to discard femininity. Fashion is frivolous, makeup is frivolous, high heels are frivolous. And then they tell you, oh, it's all about the male gaze. Actually, it isn't. That wonderful reading that Zuzana did, and also because I don't read my own work, so I'd kind of forgotten about that. So it's kind of funny to hear it again. But this idea of the male gaze, it made me think about how I wear clothes and my husband just starts laughing because he doesn't understand what the hell is going on. He's a good man, my husband, but he doesn't get it. And but other women like me who are interested in fashion and style get it. You wear a big balloon dress, and my husband goes, "What is that? A dress? Is it a shirt? What is it?" But then I meet a stylish woman, she's like, "Yes, girl." I think the women here who are interested in fashion know exactly what I'm talking about, and so So I guess my point is that we really need to start to rethink that idea that every choice a woman makes is somehow about the male gaze. That is giving way too much power to the male gaze. So I talk about femininity not because I think it is the exclusive property of women. I don't. But only because I think it has been for too long diminished, and it's somehow forced women to pretend. I know that that there are many women like me who are interested in ideas, but who also like traditional femininity. And for me, my vision of feminism is one in which we have a large room to allow women to be whatever they want to be, and know that their ability will not be judged because of that. And so there's a lovely child walking across.
Oh.
Sorry, I think I had a child and suddenly I've fallen in love with all the children in the world. It's ridiculous. But so I think I've answered yes. Yes.
Okay. No, she's
so cute.
She is. She's a little miracle. Here's somebody else with a question, please. It's nice when people stand up, you can see them, yeah?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Veronica. Thank you for being here. I'm your great admirer. I hope this is the way to get your signature later. But my question is, I know you are here more as an activist, but I really love your work. And my question is, Half of the Yellow Sun, when I was reading this novel, the whole way I was just thinking, was that a way for you to somehow become even with the past of your family, of your region? Because I felt that there was a lot of biographical work of your family, but I was still thinking, why to write this? And also one extra question is, how is it now when I cannot possibly imagine the nation or region trying to be separate and be pushed so badly, and how it can feel after so many years, because we separated and never happened. But so I cannot imagine that, and this is what I love about the book. Thank you.
Thank you. I think your psychological analysis has quite a bit of merit. The part about wanting to get even. I'm a person who generally likes to get even. Forgiving I find very difficult. No. Actually, yes, that's true, but that's not what we're talking about. It's difficult again to talk about why I chose to write about Biafra. I grew up in the shadow. By the time I was born in 1977, the war had been over for 7 years. My parents lost everything they owned. My grandfathers died in the war. So I grew up with stories, but not specific things. So my mother would talk about the china and the silverware she lost in the war. And my father endlessly talked about his father, my grandfather. But then they didn't really talk about the specifics of the war. So I knew that this thing had taken my grandfathers, both of whom apparently were just really lovely men. But I didn't know exactly what had happened. I knew that my family had lost everything. I knew that there was a before the war and an after the war. But the war middle was very murky. So I think I wanted to make sense of it for myself in a very personal way. But I also, I think, wanted to tell the story for my generation of Nigerians, because we don't learn about it in school, in the way that I think every country has a part of their history that they're ashamed of. And in Nigeria, that's the part of our history that we're ashamed of. So we try to keep it silent. And if you talk about it, they tell you that you're a troublemaker and you're trying to bring back division, that kind of thing. So I think it was also my way of I wanted to start a conversation about our history. I find it deeply, I think that to know where we are and where we're going, we have to understand where we've been. And it seemed to me in Nigeria that we hadn't talked about that period, and that period really shapes so much about our present. The political structure in Nigeria today, you can trace back directly to 1970 when the war ended. And the second part of the question, which was...
This country was separated.
Oh, right,
Slovakia,
right.
But Slovakia was never forced back into the Union.
Right.
And in Biafra, that was the case.
Yeah. What's happening now is that there is a neo-Biafran movement, which I think, and you know, the rhetoric of the movement is that they want separation. And it's mostly disaffected young men in southeastern Nigeria. And I think that neo-Biafran movement is really less about secession and more about people reacting to this sense of being excluded. One of the legacies of that period is that there's a sense in which if Nigerians are being honest, they will tell you cannot trust an Igbo man because, you know, the idea being they try to leave, so you cannot trust them. And there is also in the political discourse in Nigeria, people will say things like, do you think we will ever have an Igbo president? So it's kind of, so all of those things are legacies of the war period. In general, ethnicity remains a problem in Nigeria, but my view is that it's not so much about ethnicity as it is when it's politicized. I think good leadership makes such a difference. If we had a leader who really made every part of Nigeria feel included, the neo-Biafran movement would not exist.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Thank you. And again, so much of this resonates here that it's quite striking, actually. Question from you. Please get up so Chimamanda will see who's asking.
Ms. Adichie, I'm Sylvia, and when I've read your books, I think they are not only intelligent and it's not insightful, they're also very beautiful.
Thank you.
In terms of language. And I can compare it only maybe to Fitzgerald, but you make more sense to me in this world. And what I wanted to ask is, how did you acquire this beautiful language? Are you a passionate reader? And if yes, who brought you and who inspired you to read?
I don't remember when I wasn't reading. Right? So my earliest memories of childhood are memories of me with a book. But I was lucky. I was lucky that I grew up in a university. And I grew up on a university campus, so I had access to books. I was lucky that my best friend's father was a professor of literature, so they had a home library just full of wonderful books. I was lucky that I had the Children's Center library on campus as well that I went to. My father is a professor of mathematics, so it's not like we had novels lying around the house, right? We had, you know, very thick journals about statistics. But I think I grew up in a family that deeply values learning. And I think this is true for many Igbo families in Nigeria. There's a sense in which when colonialism came, Igbo people were very quick to sort of adapt. And suddenly, Western education became the thing. So families will spend the last bit of money they have to educate their children. So there's a kind of this, you know, learning is a good thing. So go get a book, right? So I think I was fortunate that I happened to be born into a space that encouraged something that I really like to think that I was blessed with, which is this desire to read and write.
All of these questions deserve much, much longer answers than we are allowed to give here. Just checking with Miriam or Andrea, 10 minutes? Okay, cool.
I'll keep them short, I promise, so I can get to everyone.
No, but it's great to listen. Now, this gentleman here has brought his own mic, so go ahead.
Okay, I hope it works. Yeah. So I got very intrigued by the thing that you say that you love to discuss and to argue with different people about your opinions. And I love it as myself as well. I love to overcome misconceptions and try to explain them in a reasonable manner. But I found myself for the past few weeks and months not doing so much because I found that it's super hard to explain something to people when they're already decided on their opinion. So I would like to ask you, how do you deal with the situation where you obviously see you cannot win the argument, but you want to propel your message forward?
You know, try punching them. No, that's a joke.
Yeah.
You know, my general... So especially, and this happens to me mostly in talking about sexism, right? When I talk about feminism, and I get a lot of pushback. I've decided that there are different groups of people. There's a small group that I have made peace with the fact that I will never be able to reach them. So there's no point, right? And you can tell, you start a conversation and you can tell when there's no point. But there's a much larger group, I think, of people who you might think they're set in their ways, but there's a small crack where they're willing to listen. With those people, I will try. And I'm a believer in storytelling. And I often say to women who are my fellow feminists, I say to them, let's go to story. Right? Don't do the theory, especially with people who are not in your little bubble of theorizing, because you're going to lose them. And in the end, what's the point of all this? The point of all this is to get people on board because we want to change the world. I don't care how melodramatic that sounds, but it's true. That's what I want to do. I want a just world. I want to walk towards a just world, which means that we want to get people on board. And if you're going to use language that people don't understand, you will not get them on board. So I use storytelling. I usually and often it's men who think, women just use feminism to try and reduce men and hate men. I find storytelling and humor works. So I start, if I do a bit of teasing, and I usually try to make the stories about them. So I'm like, what was the last thing that really annoyed you about how women use feminism to destroy men? And then if they're willing to give me an example, we start working with that. I think that generally really works well. Story works well. And I think also giving people alternative stories. And maybe the last thing is remembering that a person can have a bad idea, but that person isn't necessarily a bad person. I think it's really because that shapes the way you talk to them. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll see it. You'll see it also in the manifesto and let's say the nonfiction you write. Those two are full of stories. So it's the argument and the story. Choose the right moment. I think one more question here, and you already have a microphone, I believe.
I already have a mic. Yes. Hi.
Hi.
So you just talked about what can help change people's minds. And in my opinion, that is a part of what makes great fiction. But I would be very much interested in what makes great fiction in your opinion. And if you could maybe also share one or two of your favorites.
Every time I'm asked that, I go blank, and then I'm going to leave the stage and think, my God, I could have told them about that novel. Maybe I can tell you about a novel I love from this part of the world. Magda Szabo, I'm probably not pronouncing it well, S-Z-A-B.
Magda Szabo?
Szabo, yes.
Sounds Hungarian?
Yes, yes. Szabo. So Magda Szabo, yes. So I quite like her fiction. I really like Catalan Street. What makes for good fiction for me? It's what I call emotional truth, and it's very hard to define. But I can tell when I see it. It's a kind of refusal to. Sometimes one can tell a writer that is watching herself, and it's a kind of layers of self-consciousness. And I often find that off-putting as a reader because I'm unable to get into the world. I find emotional honesty to be really moving, and a kind of just human storytelling where human beings are messy, where nothing is, where it's messy because the world is messy. I'm always suspicious of books in which characters are a bit too good, because then it immediately makes me distrust the entire world of the fiction because I'm thinking, come on, really? Yeah, and another book I love, maybe I'll just talk about a book I recently read, a novel I loved. See, I told you I would blank. Right, okay, there's a novel I love which I think the writer is Polish. And the novel is called The Beautiful Mrs. Seidenman. Again, I'm not pronouncing it well. Seideman. And his name is very long, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but I find it to be a very gorgeous novel, and especially now that I'm still interested in how we write the memory of trauma, collective trauma, and that book, which is about the Second World War, I find really beautiful. Oh, and another novel I'm going to suggest is by a Nigerian woman, and it's called The Secret Lives of Baba Shegi's Wives. It's a wonderful, funny, feminist, true account of this man who's who's polygamous and how that really works out.
Can you give us a title once more?
The Secret Lives of Baba Shegi. Shegi is S-E-G-I. Shegi's Wives. And the writer is Lola Shonei.
Lola Shonei. Final question, and it's over here, so you should be able to get that mic in the right direction.
Hi.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Lucia. So I would like to ask you a question. I myself work in an industry that it's, let's say, considered as a man industry, that it was always ruled by men, and they are always bringing me down. But what I've noticed throughout my career, that it's not only the men who bring women down, but it's also the women themselves. Like they consider each other a competition, something that they just don't see you as a friend. They don't want you good, but they see you as, you understand?
Yes.
So I would like to know, how do you cope with situations like that, and what is your advice? Thank you.
I try to, again, it really depends on my mood. If I'm in a bad mood, I do not deal with it well. I'm not even joking. But in general, what I like to remind myself of is who's benefiting from this system. It's men. So when women pull other women down, it's not women who are benefiting, because the person who pulls you down is not benefiting. It's still a system that benefits men, and there's something about it that is very sad, because women are complicit in their own oppression. But I also, and again, this is when I'm sort of being expansive about it and theoretical, is I also say to myself, we have to remember that if it is true that we live in a patriarchy, if it is true that misogyny is in the air we breathe, then we cannot expect, and if it is also true that we reject this idea that women have to be held at a higher standard, right? Because actually when listening to the praise directed at the president, which I'm sure is worthy, I started to feel ever so slightly uncomfortable, because I thought, my God, I hope she hasn't been elevated to sainthood because she's a woman, because we do that quite a bit, where, so this woman gets into power, suddenly she's wonderful, she's perfect, and the standards are so high that she's not allowed to fail. And that in itself, for me, is misogynistic. Right? So I think if I believe in all of these things, then I have to, in some ways, not excuse, but understand why women do that. A dear friend of mine, one of my closest friends in the whole world, who died recently, his name was Binyavanga Wainaina, and he was a Kenyan writer. And I remember I was so hurt about something a woman I had supported had done to me. I was just so, and I was baffled by it. And he looked at me and he said, your problem is that your default is to forgive women, and your default is to trust women. And he was saying it like, you shouldn't, you know? And it made me think that he was right. And I started to wonder, is there a misogyny there where I'm thinking, how could she have done it? If a man had done it, I'd be like, you know? And but it can be difficult. I think it's important to surround oneself with good people, with like-minded people, especially for women. And I was saying earlier about how important it is to know that you're not alone. It's really important, especially if you make the choice to be a woman who, you know, pushes back at the world, who chooses to do things for herself, who chooses to deal with that guilt. I think that women across cultures are socialized to have when we want something for ourselves. There's a guilt there because we've been socialized for so long to put ourselves, you know, you can't want too much. So it's important, I think, to find, I find people, I surround myself with people, women and men, who kind of are not terribly catty, you know? Women who generally like other women. And women who are on the same journey of unlearning all of the things that we've learned in our socialization as women. I often say that I'm still in that process of unlearning. I am still in it because it's difficult. It's difficult. You know, you've been told your whole life every woman you see is competition, which is such nonsense. But but it's something that's there somewhere. You've sort of been socialized to think that another woman's success somehow takes something away from you when it doesn't, right? And there's a kind of, so I can talk about Nigeria, for example. My core supporters, as a public sort of person who talks about feminism, not so much my literature, because that's kind of almost neutral. But when I started talking about feminism, my public image in Nigeria changed drastically from, this writer that everybody was proud of because she wrote these novels to this controversial, crazy woman. And my core supporters are women. My core detractors are women, right? And it's not pleasant, because you're thinking what I'm standing for publicly is a system that will benefit you, so why aren't you supporting me? But you also remember that it's a complicated thing. There's some women for whom what you're doing is a judgment on their own lives, because they've been socialized their whole lives to think, don't dare to want more, don't dare to speak. And now this woman is out there speaking, how dare she? Because now your very presence is a judgment on them, and they don't like it. So they're like, she's crazy, we need to, all of that. But you have to keep going, right? I mean, it can be difficult, but you have to keep going. That was wrong. I meant for it to be.
Honorary Central European Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.